Take into consideration what?
You can take into consideration that about 1400 years ago in a desert climate, you know, women and men alike, they had to mature very quickly in order to survive, in order to do what we do today with ease.
Okay. May I reply? Is that your question?
Have you taken that?
This argument is spurious, and the reason why it is spurious is this. Because whilst the sense of childhood innocence, as we might think of it in the 21st century, is not something that applied in the 7th, the reality is that biologically, mentally, there is no way you're going to be able to demonstrate that a child, clearly who is playing with dolls, 9 years old, in her parents' care, if she was in her parents' care, which she was, according to the hadiths, she's not independent. Therefore, you're not going to be able to demonstrate from any evidence that you can provide that she was in a fit mental, physical or spiritual state to have sex with an adult.
Could you prove that she wasn't?
Yes.
Playing with dolls doesn't prove that she wasn't. Right?
Yeah.
Period. Right? We both know that just because she was playing with a doll, doesn't mean she's not mentally, physically.
If she's playing with dolls at 9 years old, she's a child, mate. If you can't see that, no one can help you. Do you know in certain places in the Middle East there are wards for children who have had sex too young because their hips have not broadened out, right? Why do you think that's going on?
Well, again, you're still comparing it today to back then. You know?
Do you think that Muhammad is the example for today?
100%.
Right. So would you allow, have you got any children?
No, unfortunately.
Do this thought experiment with me.
Fine.
You've got a 9-year-old girl. Are you going to let her marry a 64-year-old man?
Not today. It's not in our culture. Again, like Shamsi said before, that was a cultural thing.
It's cultural.
So it's not an Islamic thing. Okay?
It's not an Islamic
because as you can, I'm sure you've done a lot of study on hadith.
Yeah.
There is no hadith where the Prophet instructs us to go and marry women at the age of 9 or 6.
What's the age of consent in Islam?
There is no age.
There is no age of consent in Islam.
If those are the three criteria, she's physically, spiritually, and mentally able, then she can get married. She has to also agree to it.
Yep.
So
do you
that's
think?
The criteria.
Do you think a 9-year-old child,
not today,
in the dependence of her mother and father, is in a state to refuse marriage to people who believe that he's a prophet? I'm saying to you, Aisha didn't have a free choice. That's what I'm saying to you. Aisha, my evidence is that you've got a 9-year-old girl in the care of her parents, in a community that believes that Muhammad was a prophet, and the prophet is saying, I'd like to marry your daughter. Do you honestly think that that 9-year-old child could turn around to her parents, her community, and this great religious figure and say, actually, no, I don't want to marry this old man? She couldn't. Dude, you clearly, I can see you've not had children. I can see that. I'm telling you,
I'm not trying to compare
a child in her
today.
infancy.
I'm talking about her. The subject is about Aisha.
Yeah.
So there's no point comparing her to children of today.
A child in her infancy would not be able to give a free choice. She couldn't cognitively reason that it was right or wrong. She couldn't cognitively reason whether it was the right or the wrong decision for her. So your argument that she had a free choice is bogus. You're just saying that. Where's your evidence she had a free choice?
If she didn't have a free choice, she wouldn't have narrated so many hadith, and actually testify about how much she loved him, about their life together. None of that would happen if she didn't willingly marry him and live the next 9 years.
9 years. 9 years.
He died when she was 18.
She died when, so
he died.
He died when she was 18. Yes. Now, you're trying to argue to me that this man who had sex with a 9-year-old child is a moral example to me. Right. I am saying to you,
not because he had sex with a 9-year-old. That's not why. Because again,
do you not think that would disqualify him?
No, it doesn't, because this was specific to him, and no other Muslim was instructed to do so.
Yeah.
Okay. So to use this example, to say that it disqualifies him,
yeah,
is not
so
very
so
strong.
your argument is that Muhammad might have done it, but you don't have to do it.
We don't have to.
Right. So according to the Quran, right, when it talks about the period of waiting,
3 months.
3 months,
4
right?
months and 10 days.
And it lists, doesn't it, the groups that you have to wait for as being 3 months.
Yes.
What's the reason for the waiting period? Pregnancy. You all heard that? Yes. Right. Listen to this verse very carefully. This is from Allah, so it gets worse. We're not talking about Muhammad, we're talking about what Allah says. All right? Such of your women, this is in Surah 65 and Ayah 4. All right? Surah 65, Ayah 4. Such of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, that means people who have gone into their menopause, for them the prescribed period, if ye have any doubts, is 3 months. Listen to the next bit. And for those who have no courses, for them, it is the same. For what do you call a woman who has no courses?
You know that there is a condition, I forgot the name, I'm trying to search it. There is a condition in which some women reach 25, 26, and some until they die, in which they never ever experience a period.
I mean, this is a nice modern apologetic.
No. Remember,
but this is, let's be clear, if you have any doubts, 3 months. For those who have no courses, it is the same. This is talking about children who have not entered into puberty.
No.
And you just said that the waiting period is to make sure they're not pregnant.
Yeah.
Your mind and the mind of the Salafa was the same. You can have sex with kids.
No.
So, what is this referring to then?
Let me see if I can find the...
I know about the medical condition you're
you know
talking
about,
about.
okay.
I know about the medical condition. So you're saying it's about that?
Yeah.
You're saying it's about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you prove this otherwise?
Well,
Because there are women, so when
I think...
the book is
no, hold on.
covers everything.
Yeah. For those who have no courses, when it is comparing them to women as past the age of monthly courses, yeah, I think that is very clearly talking about children. And we have the example of Muhammad, who had sex with a 9-year-old child.
Like I said, there is no hadith, there is no verse that tells us that we can do so, exactly what he did. Like for example, the things that he did that we are supposed to do are mentioned either in the Quran or the hadith.
Yeah.
Marriage to 9, 6-year-olds or whatever, that is not mentioned in either the Quran or the hadith.
But you've just said that in Sharia law there's no age of consent.
There is no.
Right? So you're saying in Islam that you've got no age of consent. You're saying in Islam that Muhammad, as your example, can have sex with a 9-year-old child, and we're seeing in the Quran that it talks about women who have passed the age of having periods, and women who have not entered the period of having.
Some women never enter.
Right. Right.
So which means they can get pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's obvious. So that
Where is your hadith? Where is your hadith?
Hold on.
Where is your hadith demonstrating to me that this ayah is talking about women who never have a period? Where's your evidence that that's the proper interpretation?
You want me to bring up a hadith when this condition was not known back then?
Thank you. This condition was not known back then. So what do you think it was talking about when it said for them the prescribed period, if you have any doubts, and 3 months, and for those who have no courses, it is the same?
Remember that there are several verses in the Quran that we had no knowledge in terms of biology, physics, astronomical knowledge back then, but we do today. All right, and the Quran covers it all, and it's a book that covers it fine.
Right.
So just because we didn't know the condition back then does not mean it's not applicable to that condition.
It would be interesting to see what was the context by which this verse was revealed. But here's my point, brother. Here's my point. Is that...
My name's Muhammed.
Okay. Bob, nice to meet you. So here's my point, Muhammad. The reality is, when I look at Sharia law, and I look at liberal secular law, I think that we would be doing better to follow liberal secular law over Sharia law.
Well, that's a broad subject.
Yeah. Yes, but that's not, but we're using this as an example, and this is why. Because in Islam, you don't have an age of consent, but in secular legal law that we do.
Can I answer the age of consent?
Yeah.
Because you could have, in today's society, you could have a woman that's 25 years old. She's physically ready, but she might not be spiritually or mentally ready. True or not?
Yes.
Could that not be the case?
That could be the case.
Okay. So that's why we don't have an age of consent. Not because we're allowed to marry a 9-year-old or a 6-year-old. It's because women vary. Everyone's different.
Did you just admit you can marry a 9 and a 6-year-old?
And I said it's not because we can. Okay?
Can you?
Today's society, we all know children are not.
Yeah, but Shamsi's made this big deal about Western superior, you know, that Western imperialism.
Well, he has
because
got a point when
we aren't using the ages of consent we find in Africa and the Middle East. But in places like Africa and the Middle East, we see places where children who are not ready to be married are being married and are then suffering physically because they're having sex. No. They're not all being forced. They're not all being forced. They're living in cultures and contexts where they're expected to marry and they don't know any better and they marry. Go to Pakistan.
That's a lack of magic point when we say that even in this country, up until 100 years ago,
yes,
you know, girls were able to get married at 7. So, and that's 1,300 years after the fact. And the other point that he brought up, which is that in his society, no one made an issue of it. Imagine this. The Prophet Muhammed, he was reprimanded by the pagans and the Jews and the Christians just for saying, I believe in one God.
Yeah.
So saying I believe in one God isn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But according to you, marrying a girl at 6 and consummating it at 9 is a big deal. Why did they not say anything? If they made a huge deal.
Are you aware? Are you aware that the Byzantine? Go on, I'll let you finish.
Actually, well, go on. I think you probably knew what I was going to say.
Yeah. Are you aware that the Byzantine Empire in the 5th century, so that's 2 centuries before Islam, elevated the age of consent to 12 or 13 years old?
Yeah.
Okay, so even back in the classical world, before Islam was founded, cultures and civilizations were identifying that they needed to create a lower bar, a bar raising above 9. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say to you,
remember that the Arabian Peninsula, the Arabs at the time were quite ignorant of cultures around them. Yeah. So that's
I agree.
But what I'm saying to you is that the Byzantines knew better than Muhammad.
Not a fan.
That's not necessarily true. Just because they raised it doesn't mean that was better than that.
Would you like to get, as a Muslim, would you like to get rid of the age of consent in this country?
No.
So what you're saying is you would prefer the liberal secular law over Sharia law?
Sorry, what's the question again?
So, I'll ask you again. As a Muslim, do you want to get rid of the age of consent in this country?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay, so you're choosing now, because you've already admitted, and it's on camera, that in Islam there's no age of consent.
Yes.
You are admitting, so you're saying that you would prefer liberal secular law to Sharia law?
No.
Oh, so no.
No, it's not a contradiction. I know you're going to say it's a contradiction.
Square the circle for me.
Okay, because your second question was, would I prefer it? Not would I choose it, you know, so you didn't give me a choice. Yeah, either this or... like I said,
Let him speak. Let's not behave like the Islamic Dawah team. Let him speak.
Don't behave like these Christian missionaries here.
Ali Dawah. I'll debate you next.
Got a signature?
I lost my trail of thought.
The question